The girl on the frame was not supposed to move. But her fingers still twitched against the restraints. She hung half upright in the isolation bay of a military transport. Forearms lashed to cold metal rails. Ankles locked into place. A narrow band around her throat glowed with a faint, steady light. No crown. No jewels. Just the blunt hardware of control. Her name on the manifest was Sarai Vela, daughter of the last sovereign house of the Valis Dominion. Registered on this ship as one line. Strategic prisoner. She was being moved like a component, not a person. From the Dominion capital to a neutral station in border orbit. Officially. For negotiation. Truthfully. As leverage. If she arrived alive, the war might be slowed. If she died at the wrong moment, it might end everything instead. Time crawled inside the isolation bay like thick liquid. Every breath she took sounded too loud in the filtered air. The man assigned to escort her stood 2 meters away. Boots braced on the deck. Hands still. He wore the dark, practical uniform of Union Fleet security. No decoration beyond a narrow patch on his shoulder. Ward. E. Elias Ward. On his left forearm, a hardened display showed her vital statistics. Heart rate, blood pressure, oxygenation. All of it mirrored from the band at her throat. Under those numbers, a single line of orders pulsed in quiet text. Escort the acid. Do not interfere with the acid. Do not defend the acid. He was not here as a bodyguard. He was here as a witness and a key. Only his authorization could change the state of the bio-link. Only his confirmation could tell the system the acid was still alive. He had never met anyone like her. He had escorted officers, defectors, smugglers. None of them came with a fleet attached to their pulse. She watched him while the ship's hum wrapped around them. Her eyes were clear, not clouded by sedatives. They did not drug me, she said. The words came out calm, without tremor. That was a condition of transport, Elias answered. She worked her wrists against the bands. Not to escape, just to feel them. They want me conscious when it happens, she said. When what happens? He asked. Whatever they finally decide to do with me, she replied. He checked the text again, though he had memorized it hours ago. If cardiac function ceases for more than 90 seconds, all 12 Helix-class tactical satellites will execute preloaded strike plans. The satellites waited now in high, cold orbits above contested systems. Sleek cylinders of metal and intention. Each carried enough kinetic potential to erase a city. Their targeting matrices were linked directly to the bio-link on her throat. Why 90 seconds? He asked. Because it sounds merciful, she said. Long enough to pretend they tried to save me. Short enough to be useful. He had read her file. Fifth in line for a throne that no longer truly existed. Educated in strategy, trade negotiation, network law. Raised in a palace full of balcony speeches and private war rooms. Officially, she was responsible for nothing the Dominion had done. Unofficially, her blood made her the perfect trigger. If my heart stops, she said, your Union gets the first strike. Helix will burn the oldest Dominion command sites. She closed her eyes for one moment. When those burn, she continued, our automated systems will answer. Your old cities go second. Then your outer worlds. Then everyone stops counting. Elias let the silence stand. The ship's ventilation filled the gap with a low, endless sigh. So you see, she said. They did not tie me here because they fear what I could do. They tied me here because they fear what happens if I am gone. He shifted his weight. His boots made a faint scrape on the metal floor. You are aware of your status, he said. I am aware that my pulse is a loaded weapon, she replied. And that you are the hand hovering near the safety. He looked again at the thin band on her throat. At the way its light pulsed in time with the line on his display. Only I can authorize adjustments, he said. Only you can cause them, she answered. The internal chronometer ticked toward mid-transit. The ship was moving through a corridor of space both sides pretended was neutral. In truth, it was watched from every angle. On the far side of the hull, 12 helix platforms tracked every gram of mass. They measured engine signatures, radiation leaks, and irregular shadows. Nothing crossed this border without their knowledge. The transport's motion sent a faint vibration through the isolation frame. It rattled the restraint points against the wall. "Do you know where they are sending me?" she asked. "Calyx 4, he said. "Trade station turned arbitration hub. A place built to pretend war can be folded into contracts," she said. "Peace has to start somewhere," he answered. "Peace built on my circulation," she said. "That is not peace, that is accounting." He should have stayed silent. His orders encouraged silence. Instead, he said, "Accounting still keeps people fed." Her eyes found his. "And if they decide the numbers work better with me removed?" she asked. He did not answer that. There was nothing useful to say. "Tell me your name," she said. "Elias Ward," he replied. "Elias Ward," she repeated slowly. "Remember it when they ask you to confirm the time of my death." Time seemed to thicken between them. Every second carried too much weight. A soft chime sounded in the bay. The wall display lit with a familiar block of text. "Command briefing, compressed for escort personnel." He tapped the control to open it. Lines of data scrolled past. "Command confirmation. Primary trigger remains BioLink Sarai Vela. If heart activity ceases for longer than 90 seconds. Helix Tactical Network will assume assassination by Dominion hardliners. Immediate response. Tier 1 kinetic strikes authorized. No human override in theater." Only one clause carried his name. Escort Commander Elias Ward will maintain continuous observation. Any interference with asset integrity will be treated as treason. He read that line twice. The letters did not change. "You see it now," she said quietly. He glanced toward her. "They have built a war that does not need anyone to give the order." She continued. "Just someone to stop watching." Her wrists flexed again. The metal cuffs dug into her skin. "Do you think they chose 90 seconds because it is enough time to feel guilt?" she asked. "Or because it is just short enough that no one can argue once the missiles are already in flight?" He closed the briefing and sealed the channel. The bay felt smaller afterward. Like the walls had taken a step inward. Outside, the transport cut through the dark with engines on silent thrust. The viewports were sealed in here. For security. There was no sky. Only the faint shudder of work being done by distant machines. "In other circumstances," she said, "I might have met you in a reception hall. Under soft light. You would have stood at the edge of the crowd. I would have ignored you politely. We would have gone on with our lives. Instead," he said, "we share this room and a line of blinking numbers." She smiled once. It did not reach her eyes. A tremor ran differently through the floor. Sharper. More focused. Elias knew the feel of external contact. Years of patrol duty had taught his bones the difference between normal vibration and impact. He looked up. The ceiling lights flickered. One of them went dark and stayed that way. The ship's alarm did not sound. That was worse than if it had. His forearm display flashed a new message. In scheduled kinetic contact. Origin. Friendly signature. Friendly. He opened the detail feed. A short burst of data spilled across it. Course correction from one of their own escort craft. A slightly off angle. A glancing blow. Not a direct shot. Enough to make the hull ring. Enough to make the ship remember it was fragile. "Is that normal?" she asked. "No," he said. Time slowed again, thick as oil. He requested a channel to the bridge. The request returned queued, not accepted. Every instinct he had told him the same thing. Something had changed outside this room. Not an accident. Not random debris. Calculated pressure. He checked her vitals. The numbers were steady but his own heart climbed. "Elias," she said. She did not call him commander now. "If they have decided I am more dangerous alive than dead," she said. "This is how it begins." He knew she might be right. A glancing blow here. Another anomaly there. Sooner or later, a system failure near life support. A malfunction. An unfortunate loss. 90 seconds of silence. An automated war. A second impact came, closer to the bay. The deck jumped under his feet. The frame holding her restraints shook hard enough to rattle bolts. An overhead panel detached and clattered to the floor. Sparks spat from a cable junction. Her heart rate spiked on his display. Then dropped as the monitor recalibrated. For one horrible instant, the line went flat. The biolink at her throat flickered. A small icon appeared at the edge of his screen. Trigger window opened. The countdown started at 90. Elias stepped forward on reflex. His training shouted at him to stand still. His orders yelled louder in his memory. Do not interfere with the acid. Do not defend the acid. He heard another voice over all of that. His own, from some long-forgotten patrol. Telling a younger soldier that orders were only clean on paper. The timer dropped to 83. Sarai's eyes widened as she felt her own body falter. Not from fear of death alone. From understanding exactly what her death would wake. Elias, she whispered. The timer showed 79. He reached for the control pad at the base of the frame. One touch there would flood her with emergency stimulants. It might tear her nervous system. It might buy back the seconds they needed. It would also leave a trace in the system. A record that he interfered. Treason, the briefing had promised. The ship shook again. Somewhere far above, metal screamed. The timer reached 71. He set his palm on the pad. Override, he said. Authorization? The system demanded? Elias Ward, he answered. Witness, escort, and the only one in this room who still cares what happens after 90 seconds. He pressed down. The emergency protocol fired. Chemicals surged through the lines into her veins. Her heart convulsed on the display. The flat line broke and leapt back into rhythm. The countdown stopped at 64. The trigger icon vanished. Somewhere beyond the hull, 12 Helix satellites held their breath. Then returned to waiting. Inside the isolation bay, Elias kept his hand on the pad. He had crossed the line his orders drew for him. There would be no going back to the clean side of it again. He did not remove his hand from the pad. Not immediately. For 3 long breaths, the ship held quiet. Not silence. Just the kind of quiet that comes when metal tries to remember what it used to be before it was turned into a weapon. Sarai opened her eyes fully. The stimulant burned along her nerves, leaving faint tremors under her skin. She searched his face as if to confirm something only she could feel. You crossed it, she said softly. Not accusation. Recognition. Elias looked at the monitor once more. The numbers stabilized. The band at her throat pulsed with controlled rhythm. Only then did he pull his palm away. The deck vibrated again. Louder now. More directed. They know, he said. Not yet, she replied. But they will. He straightened, sealing the emergency interface. Movement in the corridor shifted from distant tremors to deliberate approach. The kind that came from trained boots. Heavy. Unhurried. She drew one slow breath and met his eyes. Whatever happens next, she said. You can no longer stand between me and consequence. You already chose a side. A dull thud echoed from the outer bulkhead. Flecks of dust drifted from the ceiling seams. This time, neither of them looked at the monitor. There was no need. He reached for his sidearm. The lights overhead switched to combat readiness mode. Thin strips of amber lit along the walls. One by one. Footsteps collected outside the door. Not hesitation. Formation. Sarai spoke one last time before the breach. Then let us stand in it properly. The outer lock screamed as pressure bolts gave way. The door shook again. A harsher impact. Metal straining. Boots scraped across the outer corridor. Voices barked orders too low to distinguish words. Elias shifted stance. His suit flexed under micro-pressure updates. The containment chamber glowed faint around Sarai. Her breathing had grown shallow. But her spine remained straight. A second strike hit closer to the lock. A faint crack appeared near the hinge. He unlocked the safety block on his sidearm. The weapon hovered near ready line. Its haptic trigger pulsed twice, detecting threat vectors. "You cannot hold them alone," Sarai said. Her voice carried calm, stripped of panic. He did not answer. The corridor echoed with the sharp, mechanical cut of breaching gear. Then the explosion hit. The door leapt inward, shards scattering across cold floor. Smoke rolled through the breach. 3 armored figures stepped in. Black plating, compact pulse rifles, shoulder marks of Orion black. The lead lifted his weapon. "Stand aside, Ward," he called. Directive override. Subject classified expendable under Clause 18. Elias held his grip steady. "You fire on her, you start a war. That call is already above our rank," the soldier replied. His steps crunched frost. "Move." The chamber sensors flashed warning. Sarai's heart rate began elevating under stress. Her eyes fixed on the intruders. She spoke evenly. "If you value your own worlds," she said, "you will measure the next 90 seconds carefully." One soldier laughed, dry and short. "She speaks like she still rules," he muttered. The lead gave no reply. He raised his rifle. Elias moved. He crossed the space in 2 strides. Shot one weapon from the attacker's hands. A swift motion, controlled but heavy. The recoil vibrated through his suit. Before the second soldier adjusted aim, Elias struck shoulder to visor with armored elbow. The helmet thudded into the wall. One attacker fell. The third raised weapon. Elias shot first, grazing his thigh instead of center mass. The man collapsed hard. Ice fragments cracked under his impact. The lead soldier drew combat knife. Close quarters tactic. Elias deflected the strike with forearm plate. The blade glanced off. He drove a precise punch into rib section, disabling exoskeleton motor support. The fight ended in 7 seconds. He stepped back. The soldiers groaned, stunned but alive. No fatal blows. Not yet. He looked at the chamber. Sarai met his stare. She had not flinched. Her breath rose slow in the cold. Outside the corridor, more boots approached. Far more than 3. War rarely began loud. Sometimes it started with one person refusing to step aside. Steps accelerated toward them. Elias recalibrated rifle drives. Sarai watched movement readouts on his forearm display. Her eyes remained steady. "You do not plan to hold ground," she said. "No," he replied. "Then what?" "Buy enough time to survive extraction," he answered. A distant alarm pulsed red across corridor walls. The AI spoke with slight distortion. Tactical breach spreading across 4 decks. Crew response at 20%. External channels blocked. Sarai's gaze narrowed. "Your people fight each other while an interstellar weapon beats under my ribs." He answered without looking at her. "You think I do not know that?" She continued. "The Dominion made mistakes. So did your Union. War rewards blindness, but you still respond to life rather than command. That separates you." He checked door pressure. 10 seconds before next detachment arrived. He cut power to front security node. Door slid shut with reinforced clamps. "Do you have a strategy?" he asked. "One question first," she replied. "If you could decide what cost is acceptable to prevent war, what would you choose?" He hesitated. Booms echoed across hull plating. She watched him as though the answer weighed more than the rifle in his hands. "I would choose the path with most people breathing at the end," he said. "Then you already walk against your fleet," she said softly. "That is why you will not break." Her face showed no victory. "Only recognition. Data from your orbital satellites," she continued, "run on predictive AI. They expect attack patterns based on human aggression templates. If I transmit a new pattern, one that highlights retreat under life preservation priority, the system may recalculate stand down." "Can you do that from here?" he asked. "No," she said. "I need access to central network node aboard this ship." "That node sits behind Deck 3, he replied. "Between us and that path stand 20 soldiers and a closing doctrine." She lifted her eyes toward the sealed door. "In your tactical manual, "What is the best route when forward path is sealed?" He answered without hesitation. "You change direction and create a new point of entry." "Then do that," she said. "Not to fight, to move." He studied her for half a second. Not the politician. Not the heir. Someone who understood pressure long before he stepped into this room. The next impact sounded. Dust fell from ceiling seams. Time slid forward. 2 minutes passed since first breach. Some minutes become a lifetime. Others become the price of not acting. He made his decision. He disengaged secondary restraint lock. Sarai shifted weight carefully. She still required assistance to move inside the cold. He offered his arm. She accepted with mechanical precision, not fragility. "AI," Elias said. "Clear Deck 2 auxiliary maintenance route. Pull false fire suppression signal to draw security away." "Confirmed," the AI replied. "Warning, you are acting outside mission parameters." He ignored it. Side hatch to service corridor slid open. Pressure alarms flared as doors unlocked. They moved slow at first. Her limbs adjusted to temperature. He tracked vitals. Heart rate stable again. Crown link still within safe threshold. Corridor lights flickered. Power redistribution ran multiple times. Systems strained. They reached a junction. He scanned forward. No hostile signatures. Then she paused. He turned back. Her hand braced against bulkhead. "Give me 5 seconds," she said. He waited. She closed her eyes. Not in weakness. In calculation. "When you face them," she said, "you will compete on doctrine. Our people view survival as strategic withdrawal. Yours view it as defeat. You must rewrite that rule if you wish to keep us both alive." He studied her profile under corridor light. Tired. Measured. Still unbroken. 3 soldiers approaching rear corridor. The AI announced. Elias took position. He aimed rifle down passage. Sarai stepped aside but stayed within arm's reach. The first soldier turned corner. Elias fired a control burst, hitting chest plating. Impact pushed the attacker back without lethal entry. Second drew stun baton. Elias sidestepped strike, grappled, and pushed him into wall. The third stopped halfway. He hesitated. Elias held aim. "You are not authorized to kill me," he said calmly. The third soldier lifted rifle halfway. "You betrayed command," he said. "I preserved command," Elias replied. "I preserved the only variable that prevents orbital saturation." The soldier hesitated again. Fear, not of death, but of consequences they were never briefed on. "No time," Sarai said quietly. He held her gaze once. Then they moved on. 15 meters later, the corridor widened into junction hub. Escape module access on right. Elias opened panel. He initiated launch pre-sequence. "Transfer subject to auxiliary craft?" the AI asked. "Yes," he said. "Lock signature to mine. Cancel automated report." "Warning," the AI responded. "This will flag you as rogue." "I already crossed that point," he said. He guided Sarai into the pod. She settled against seat harness. He secured restraints, ensuring no compression near crown link. Static tremors rumbled underfoot. Weapons fire had reached midship. Hull sensors groaned under stress. He sealed pod hatch. Cabin systems hummed to life. "Elias," she said quietly. He looked at her. "If we escape, what then?" "We buy more time," he said. "Time for what?" "For someone to realize the cost," he answered. "Before cost turns into consequence." He accessed pod controls. Countdown markers lit their display. Launch window in 60 seconds. Outside, a heavy thud struck bulkhead. Metal reverberated like bone hit by hammer. The AI voice cut in, sharper than before. "Attention, Helix stratagem receiving abnormal signal pattern. Heart rate spike detected from designated subject." Sarai's vitals flashed amber. "Not critical yet. But close." "Stabilize breathing," Elias said. Her eyes closed. Shoulders lowered slightly. The AI continued. Secondary notice. Interfleet core detected breach signature consistent with internal coup attempt. He stiffened. That phrasing meant the system no longer recognized the assault as tactical variation. It logged betrayal. Helix stratagem transitioning to conflict state 1. The AI announced. Orbital defense arrays beginning activation protocol. A faint, distant rumble traveled through ship structure. Like thunder behind metal. Define countdown, Elias said. The AI paused, then replied. 17 minutes until first orbital weapon systems reach ready status. Sarai opened her eyes. Not wide, but with rising clarity. That is not countdown to attack, she said. It is countdown to commitment. He looked at border lights turning red along pod hatch. He gave final command. Launch. Hydraulic clamps released. The pod trembled, then shot clear of the carrier into vacuum. Stars tore across viewport as guidance stabilized. Inside the small cabin, silence settled for one heartbeat. Then systems engaged thrusters. Trajectory set toward KALYX-4. Sarai spoke one line. Not loud. But it filled the cabin. You just changed the war. Elias stared into the black ahead. The pulse on his wrist synced with the faint reflection of the crown link. Some wars begin with declarations. Others begin when someone chooses not to lose another world. The pod knifed through the dark. Thrusters burned short, controlled bursts. The carrier shrank behind them, a wounded shape wrapped in faint sparks. Inside the cabin, air tasted of metal and recycled heat. Warning lights drew thin lines across the console. Nothing screamed urgent yet. Not yet. Elias kept one hand on the manual controls. The other braced against the side rail as the pod shook. KALYX-4 ahead in 9 minutes. The pod computer said. Guidance lock acquired. Traffic channel quiet. Too quiet. He watched the tactical display. No visible patrols. No escort craft moving to meet them. An official transfer should have triggered a full reception. This did not. He glanced back. Sarai sat strapped into the crash seat. Her skin looked even paler in the dim light. A thin frost of sweat touched her hairline. You are bleeding, she said. He looked down. A thin red line traced along his left forearm seal. He had not felt the cut during the fight. Now the sting caught up. It can wait, he said. We both know it cannot, she replied. You keep ignoring small losses. That is how you lost Minnow's Ridge. The name landed like a blow. He did not remember telling her about that battle. The file, then. Her people had read his record. Eyes front, he said. He forced his thoughts back to the display. Space outside looked still. Under that stillness, data shifted. The POD's sensors picked up a faint energy rise. Incoming, he muttered. A sharp spike appeared on the screen. Not from the carrier. From above their vector. A defense drone. Small, fast, armed. Unregistered object approaching, the computer announced. Range decreasing, no ID handshake. A bright streak crossed the viewport. The pod jolted sideways. One of the thrusters coughed flame and died. Alarms woke up all at once. Red lines cut across fuel graphs. Structural stress climbed. Elias gripped the hand controls. Hold on, he said. The pod rolled. Gravity shifted inside the small cabin. Straps bit into shoulders and hips. Sarai exhaled slow through her nose. The drone is not from my people, she said. Yours? He checked the frequency the drone used. The pattern matched Terran Union tactical code. Friendly fire, he said. The words tasted bitter. He dove the pod under the drone's attack path. Another flash tore past them. A glancing hit scratched the POD's side. The hull sang with metal pain. The cabin darkened for a heartbeat. Then backup power caught. His forearm flared with sharper pain as the cut opened wider. His fingers tightened on the controls. You're losing blood, Sarai said quietly. That will slow your thinking. My thinking is fine, he said. He yanked the pod into a tighter curve. The drone overshot. then turned to pursue. He could picture the operator behind that drone. A soldier like him once. Watching a screen. Receiving orders from someone who never saw what war looked like from this close. 3 years earlier, over Minnow's Ridge, he had watched another drone cavalry mop up survivors. He had stood inside a bunker as friendly fire erased friendly uniforms. The sky had burned. Names on his roster had turned into static in his earpiece. He had sworn never to stand still while that happened again. The drone closed distance. Missile lock, the computer warned. He knew he could not outrun a guided round. Not with one thruster dead. He flicked open a maintenance panel with his injured hand. Cables ran underneath, color-coded. He ripped one free. Then another. Pod systems will degrade, the computer warned. I know, he said. He forced power from life support to the guidance array. Cabin lights dimmed further. Cold air rushed in like a memory. He rerouted a pulse through the damaged thruster. Not enough to move, but enough to flare heat. The missile chased that flare. He ignited it at the last second. The blast hammered their side. The pod spun, then tumbled. Stars became a scattering blur. Metal screamed. Something inside the wall tore. Sarai's head snapped against the padded rest. Blood darkened the fabric near her temple. Then silence. Real silence. No thruster hum. No guidance chatter. Only the soft hiss of emergency air. And their breathing layered on top. Time stretched thin. 5 long seconds. Bare and empty. Outside, the drone drifted past, systems confused by the sudden absence of clear vector. It did not recognize the pod as alive. Dead objects did not make war. For the moment, they fell unseen. Minutes bled away. Elias forced his vision to steady. The cut on his arm had soaked the inner layer of his sleeve. Every small movement pulled at torn skin. Status, he said. The computer sounded smaller now. Like a tired voice. Primary thrusters offline. Secondary correction jets at 20%. Guidance damaged. We are on ballistic path. Toward what? KALYX4. It said. If nothing interferes. If, he echoed. A thin line of blood had crawled down from Sarai's temple. It traced her cheek and pooled near the strap. Her eyes were open, but less focused. He unbuckled, pushed himself toward her seat. Microgravity made every move float. His injured arm complained. He reached her forehead. The wound was shallow, but any hit to the head carried risk. How many fingers? He asked, raising his good hand. She blinked at him. 3. He had held up 2. Her pupils were slow to adjust. Not good. You have a concussion, he said. Your medical training is basic, she answered. But her voice lacked its earlier strength. He wiped the blood away with a cloth from the emergency kit. The cabin felt colder now. As if the cut in the hull bled heat as well as air. How long until impact with station orbit? He asked. 19 minutes, the computer replied. Margin of error high. 19 minutes in a crippled pod. A drone somewhere behind them trying to decide if they still mattered. Helix stratagem watching heart rate graphs from a distance. He secured another strap across Sarai's chest to keep her stable. Her breathing slowed a bit. He tried to count it against the faint ticking of the life support. This reminds you of Minnow's Ridge, she said softly. He almost denied it. Then he did not. Yes, he said. Tell me, she said. He stared past her at the small viewport. The stars outside did not care. We held a line we should have abandoned, he said. We stayed because someone far away needed a victory for a speech. How many? She asked. 7 under my direct command, he said. More beyond that, the sky looked like it was shedding metal rain. You survived, she said. I survived, he answered. I still do not know if that was the right outcome. She closed her eyes briefly. Survival without purpose is a slow death, she said. Today you have purpose. He almost laughed. It came out as a short breath. What purpose? He asked. To break a pattern, she said. Your people love straight lines. Advance. Hold. Die. You can bend that line today. Her words settled in next to Kane's warning in his memory. He could feel both voices pull in opposite directions. Silence flowed in between. Outside, the damaged pod continued its slow, ugly arc toward KALYX-4. Time slipped. 5 minutes felt like 50. In the cabin, the air turned colder, thinner. Frost began to reappear along the lower panels. The computer broke the silence. External ping detected. Station KALYX-4 scanning this vessel. Respond, Elias said. A pause. Then static. Response refused. The computer said. Transponder flagged as compromised. We are classified as probable hostile. Sarai's lips tightened. They see two threats in one shell, she said. A traitor and an heir. He tried again. Open voice channel, he said. A harsh tone replied. Channel open. Speak. This is Commander Elias Ward of Terran Union, he said. Pod escaped internal attack aboard Durness-class carrier. I hold Sarai Vela alive. We are incoming on damaged vector. Request controlled docking and medical support. Static hissed. Then another voice replaced the machine. Cool. Measured. This is KALYX-4 control. The new voice said. Commander Ward, your status is under review. Your carrier transmitted conflicting reports before link failed. You are listed as possible rogue. I preserved the subject, he answered. The carrier came under assault from Orion Black Detachment. More silence. He could imagine the operators in that station control room, looking at his pod like a splinter headed straight for the eye. The tribunal cannot operate under threat, Control said. Approach vector must be secured first. Remain on current path. Do not attempt course change. We have damaged guidance, he said. We fail any fine corrections. If we drift wrong. Then you will accept our guidance. Control replied. Any deviation will be treated as attack preparation. The channel clicked off. Sarai watched him. The bruise at her temple had darkened. Her eyes looked clearer now, if only by defiance. They do not trust you, she said. They do not trust you either, he replied. Good, she said. Trust is overrated in war. Clear eyes matter more. He took a slow breath. Computer, he said, feed KALYX-4 full health data for Sarai. Show them the Crown Link metrics. Let them see what happens if her line goes flat. Transmitting, the computer replied. For 3 long seconds, nothing changed. Then the channel snapped open again. Commander Ward, Control said, be advised that external strategic channels report a shift in Helix stratagem behavior. What shift? He asked. Conflict state escalated, Control said. Helix is now entering second phase. It has widened its threat detection field. Sarai's gaze hardened. That means it has started reading not only death, she said, but also patterns leading toward death. Explain, Elias said. She swallowed once, throat working against the strap. When my people built Helix, they gave it permission to act before the blade fell, she said. If it sees enough signs that execution is likely, it is allowed to call that execution early. Control continued. Our data suggests Helix interprets current actions as combined attempt to remove you and erase her line under cover of internal dispute. Reaction time? Elias asked. Unknown, Control said. Projections show windows between 7 and 12 minutes. The cabin seemed to shrink around them. Air felt thinner by the word. So we are a threat if we move, Elias said. And a threat if we do not. Welcome to my life, Sarai whispered. He looked at her. At the small scar at the base of her neck. At the crown link resting there like a quiet knife. You know its algorithms, he said. You sat in the rooms where they justified this madness. How do we show it something else? She drew a slow breath. A direct override from me will not work now, she said. In this state, it distrusts my fear. It reads fear as proof the threat is real. Then what does it trust? He asked. She held his stare. It trusts patterns of de-escalation more than words, she said. Retreat, surrender, voluntary vulnerability under observation. Actions that no assassin would perform if execution were the goal. "You are suggesting we give up control," he said. "Yes," she said. "Not to your admirals, to the station, to show Helix that power is being placed into a joint structure. Not into one blade." He looked back at the console. At the weak, drifting vector lines. At the way KALYX-4's orbit wrapped around them like a net. "Control," he said into the mic. "This is Ward. We will allow remote docking override. We will shut down all manual guidance. You will see it as surrender. Helix will see it as something else. Confirm you understand the risk," Control said. "If we read any hidden thrust, we will fire." "I understand," he said. He reached for the manual controls. His hand hovered over the switch. His arm trembled once from fatigue and blood loss. He turned the switch to cut. Manual lights died. The pod coasted dumb and defenseless. Station thrusters grabbed their vector a moment later. Gentle, firm pulls from tiny bursts of force. They were no longer driving. They were being carried. Sarai's heart trace steadied. The crown link pulse shifted into a lower, calmer rhythm. Far away, Helix Stratagem watched. It saw a prisoner and a soldier choose surrender over struggle. For the first time in years, its threat graphs bent away from red. For the moment, KALYX-4 grew large in the viewport. An iron ring wrapped around a blue-gray world, bristling with docking arms and sensor clusters. Lights lined its outer spine like a slow river of fire. Inside the pod, one light shifted from red to amber on the console. "Helix Stratagem remains in heightened state," the computer said. "Conflict level lowered, but not cleared. It is watching this station closely." "What does that mean in plain words?" Elias asked. "It means," Sarai said, "if anything here looks like a staged accident, it will erase you before you can blame anyone." He tightened his straps. The station filled the forward window now. Docking clamps extended to meet them. "Docking in 60 seconds, Control said. "Medical team and armed security awaiting." "Armed," Elias repeated. "Tribunal requires assurance against hostile action from all parties," Control replied. The channel clicked off once more. He looked at Sarai. "You still ready to testify?" he asked. "I did not survive this far to stay quiet," she said. Her voice came steadier now. Cold and clear. The pod jolted softly as clamps latched on. Pressure indicators climbed. A hollow clang rang through the hull. Time slowed as the bay began to repressurize. Seconds stretched between each hiss of incoming air. Hanging there in the half-dark, with the station about to open its jaws, Elias realized something simple. Every choice from here would be public. Every heartbeat would be recorded. Every word weighed not only by judges, but by an AI listening from orbit. "You can still cut loose," Sarai said quietly. "Tell them they forced you. Claim confusion. Let me be the fixed point they blame. That will be easier." He met her eyes. "Easier for who?" "For you," she said. He shook his head. "Easy died over Minnow's Ridge," he said. "I am not here for easy." The docking clamps locked with a final, deep thud. Lights along the hatch turned green. Outside, through layers of metal, the station shifted into full alert. Inside his head, the memory of burning debris over Minnow's Ridge shifted too. For the first time, it did not end on falling bodies. It ended on this moment, with one more chance not to repeat the same line. The hatch release light changed. Green to bright white. They were about to step into a court built for war criminals. Under the gaze of two empires and one silent, watching machine. And somewhere above, Helix Stratagem adjusted its timelines and prepared to judge all of them. When the hatch finally opened, light from KALYX-4 rushed in cold and white. Metal groaned. Locks slid back with slow, heavy clicks. There was no welcome. No formal greeting. Only the organized silence of a station built to judge wars. Two lines of security waited outside the pod. Gray armor. Rifles held low but ready. Visors mirrored the pod interior, reflecting Elias and Sarai back at themselves. Between the lines, A small medical team stood with a floating stretcher and a portable bioscan frame. Their kits gleamed under harsh overhead lights. "Hands where we can see them," the lead guard said. Elias lifted both hands. Dried blood darkened one sleeve. His muscles protested but obeyed. "She needs a trauma bay," he said. "Head impact, cold exposure, oxygen debt. She does not have spare time." The chief medic stepped closer. Her gaze passed over Elias, then locked on Sarai. The bruising at Sarai's temple had deepened to a dark halo. Her eyes were still open, but the focus faded in and out. "We treat under legal oversight," the medic said. "Tribunal orders. She is high value, high risk. Helix Stratagem is watching every heartbeat," Elias said. "If you stall, it will not care about your paperwork." That landed. Not with agreement, but with a small tightening at the medic's jaw. "Move her," she ordered. Two techs stepped into the pod. They unlatched the straps with careful hands. Sarai tried to stand, then almost fell forward as gravity shifted. Elias caught her elbow. Her weight against his side felt lighter than it should. Like someone who had been living in cold air too long. "I can walk," she murmured. "You can pretend," he said. They eased her onto the stretcher. The frame adjusted to her shape. Sensors lit in a wave under her body. The crown link at her throat brightened briefly. Its light flickered in response to the new scanners. "Reading bio-link device," one tech said. "Signal intensity higher than expected." "Do not touch it," Sarai warned. Her voice barely carried. The medic frowned. "Any attempt to remove it?" she asked. Elias shook his head. "You cut that out. Helix reads execution," he said. "Then you do not have a station anymore. You have a crater." The stretcher floated forward. Security flanked it with tight formation. Elias walked beside Sarai, close enough to grab the frame if it faltered. They moved into KALYX-4. The corridor smelled of disinfectant and recycled air. Walls carried embedded cameras every few meters. Somewhere above them, heavy guns waited inside armored housings. Somewhere far beyond, Helix Stratagem watched from a mesh of satellites. 15 minutes later, the station's medical corps swallowed them. The trauma bay did not look like a place of mercy. It looked like an engine room built for flesh. Steel tables lined one side. Bioscan frames hung from articulated arms. A clear wall separated the main bay from an observation room where 3 tribunal aides watched through glass. Sarai lay on a table under a halo of scanners. Thin bands wrapped around her chest and limbs. Electrodes kissed her skin. The crown link pulsed with each heartbeat, throwing soft shadows along her collar. Numbers marched across the main monitor. Heart rate too low. Body temperature dropping. Pressure drifting downward with steady, dangerous patience. "She is sliding," the medic said. Her voice stayed level, but her eyes moved faster across the readouts. "Stabilize her," Elias said. "We are trying," the medic replied. "The crown link is complicating treatment. Any direct intervention near it might be interpreted as hostile." "By who?" he asked. "By the defense grid," she said. He stepped closer to the bed. The guard near the door lifted his rifle a fraction, then set it back down. "What do you need?" Elias asked. "Localized stimulation to raise the heart rate," the medic said. "We might reroute through the crown link and use it as a conductor. But we do not have clearance to bind to that device." Elias looked at the panel below the monitor. His Aegis S4 rig signature glowed in one corner. The system recognized him. The carrier's security tie-ins had followed. "Scan for authorized interface," he said. The console pinged. "Access match," a small voice from the machine answered. "Elias Ward, Terran Union Escort Authority. Direct link possible." The medic heard it. Her head snapped toward the display. "You are keyed to her device?" she asked. "Only for transport control," he said. "For restraints and vitals. Not for manipulation." Her gaze flicked between him and the crown link. Between slowly sinking numbers and a quiet ring of living metal. "We need that link," she said. "Even for a moment. We cannot touch it ourselves." The system will not let us. You are the only one permitted inside that circuit." Elias stared at his own hands. The one with dried blood. The one that had held a gun on his own people. "Is there any other path?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Let her continue dropping until Helix decides this looks like execution and turns your worlds into fire." The crown link dimmed. The pulse stumbled once. Sarai's lips moved. No sound emerged. He stepped to her side. The crown link sat against her skin like an exposed nerve. "Tell me exactly what to do," he said. The medic swallowed. "Place your hand over the device," she said. "The rig will handshake and open a path. We send a precise stimulus through your armor. Just enough to elevate, no more." "If Helix reads that as attack?" he asked. Her answer was flat. "Then we die in the cleanest facility on this station." He lowered his hand. The armored glove hovered above her throat. The proximity sensor chimed. His suit vibrated as the crown link recognized the old handshake. The icon on his wrist lit green. He thought of every line that had warned him never to do this. Never to use a combat rig as flesh conduit. Then he placed his hand over the device. Heat bled through the glove. The rig fed a controlled current into the crown link. The crown link translated the impulse into biosignal. For a second nothing happened. Then the numbers began to rise. Heart rate climbed 12 beats. Then 5 more. Blood pressure followed, still low but no longer falling. Sarai inhaled deeper. Her fingers tightened on the table edge, then relaxed. The medic watched the screen, barely breathing. "Hold," she whispered. He did. His hand stayed over the crown link. He could feel the faint vibration of her pulse against the glove. He remembered other pulses. Other lives under his hands. Chest compressions in dust and smoke. Blood on stone. Then the monitor stabilized. "Enough," the medic said. "Remove contact." He lifted his hand. The rig interface closed with a click. He felt more in his bones than in his ears. Lights along the ceiling dimmed slightly as the system rerouted power. "Vitals improving," the medic reported. "Still critical, but we hold a line." In the observation room, one of the tribunal aides spoke into a mic. "Commander Ward," a filtered voice said, "be advised that your action has been logged as unauthorized intervention in strategic asset." He looked up at the glass. 3 silhouettes watched him. Small. Remote. "Log whatever you like," he said. "Just keep her alive." The speaker clicked off. Somewhere beyond the walls, Helix Stratagem recalculated a few graphs. It saw the same thing it had seen before. One soldier keeping one life above a dangerous line. For the moment, it did not call that execution. The message from Admiral Varric Kane arrived 20 minutes later. By then, Sarai lay in an isolation room attached to the trauma bay. Translucent walls kept her visible from all sides. Lines connected her to monitors and infusion pumps. Her vitals drew thin neon traces on 3 separate screens. Elias stood in the outer room. Security watched from each corner. The medic reviewed data with a tight, tired expression. The station AI chimed. "Incoming priority transmission," it said. "Terran Union High Command, Admiral Varric Kane." The air itself seemed to sharpen. A hollow projector in the ceiling flicked on. Kane appeared above the floor. Full height. Uniform perfect. Eyes fixed on Elias before anyone else. "Commander Ward," he said. His voice carried that measured authority Elias knew too well. "Sir," Elias replied. "I have reviewed your choices," Kane said. "You protected the subject during an internal security operation. You detached with her in a lifeboat. You performed unauthorized interface with a strategic device." "Yes," Elias said. "Do you dispute any of that?" Kane asked. "No," Elias said. Kane's gaze shifted briefly to the isolation room. He considered Sarai through the glass, where she lay pale under the web of sensors. "The Dominion built an elegant trap," Kane said. "Helix Stratagem ties your survival to her heart. If she dies, we face massive retaliation, so we all scrambled to keep her alive. A prisoner turns into a shield." He looked back at Elias. There is another way, Kane said. The medic glanced at Elias. Then at the hologram. Her mouth tightened. She said nothing. What way? Elias asked. We end this quickly, Kane said. We accept battle. We drive our fleets hard. We burn their capacity faster than they burn ours. Short war. High cost. Predictable outcome. He spoke like he was reading from a clean chart. Lines and percentages, not bodies. You believe we win that war? Elias said. I do, Kane answered. We hold more factories, more yards, more fuel. We can soak damage. They cannot. Then why did you sign off on this transfer? Elias asked. Because civilian leadership wanted a trial, Kane said. They wanted a display of fairness recorded on every channel. But fairness is expensive. Faster to accept that some fires must burn themselves out. He pointed one finger toward Sarai. As long as she breathes. Helix forces us to hesitate, he said. It turns our strength into caution. Let her die. Let Helix strike. We counterstrike. We ride out the first wave and end it. The medic could not stay silent any longer. That first wave will hit colonies that cannot defend themselves, she said. Supply worlds, habitats, families. Kane did not even look at her. Collateral, he said. Tragic, necessary. You think war happens without that? Elias felt a slow, cold anger coil in his chest. You propose we let her die here, he said. In your own station's medical wing. Under your own flag. I propose we stop giving Helix leverage, Kane said. She is the lever. Remove the lever, and we can fight like we were built to fight. Sarai's eyes were half open behind the glass. She watched the moving light of Kane's projection. She could hear enough to understand. You do not fear war, she said, voice faint through the intercom. You fear limits on how you wage it. Kane's gaze snapped toward her. You built a machine that punishes executions, he said. You never considered it might punish hesitation instead. She drew a shallow breath. Her bruised head pressed against the pillow. We built a mirror, she said. It reflects what you do. Kane leaned closer to the pickup. I did not call to argue with you, he said. He turned back to Elias. This is your last chance to serve cleanly, Kane said. Step away. Do not interfere when this station's security makes the necessary choice. History will paint you as a dutiful officer who followed difficult orders. And if I do not step away? Elias asked. Then you become a mark on a different graph, Kane said. A variable to subtract. The line cut. The hollow dissolved into dust. Silence reclaimed the room. The medic exhaled slowly. Do you think he means it? She asked. He has already sent one black detachment against us, Elias said. He will not stop because of walls and glass. He looked at Sarai. Her eyes held his. There was no fear there. Only a question. What now? They seemed to say. He had no safe answer. But he had one direction. They moved her 12 minutes later. Not by tribunal order. By his. The corridor to the station's strategic nexus core lay 3 levels down and 1 ring inward. Few people used it. Most decisions began in courtrooms and ended in the hands of unseen techs. Today, the path went the other way. Elias walked beside the mobile bed as it glided along the corridor. 2 security officers came along, nervous hands resting near holsters. The medic pushed the bed from the other side, lips pressed tight. Explain again, she said. Why are we not taking her to holding? Because holding cells cannot talk to Helix, he said. Command Array Delta 9 can. And it sits inside the Nexus. Tribunal will not allow direct access to the array, she said. They have not noticed yet, he replied. We have a small window before someone in the legal wing reads the movement log. Sarai listened under the soft hum of the bed's motors. A translucent mask fed warm oxygen to her mouth and nose. You think you can rewrite war from one room? She whispered. Not war, he said. Rules, the way Helix labels what we do. She let that settle. The crown link flickered weakly against her throat. In the early days, we used to call it a conscience, she said. Then we made it colder so people would trust it. And now it watches us all, he said. The Nexus door guarded the end of a long, curved hall. Thick composite panels gleamed with embedded warning symbols. 2 more guards stood there, along with a slim officer in a dark uniform without armor. The officer raised one brow as they approached. This sector is restricted, he said. Tribunal has not scheduled any access. Elias held up his wrist. The console near the door scanned his rig ID. Commander Elias Ward. The officer read. Escort authority only. Authority tied to the highest helix key in this system, Elias said, nodding toward Sarai. You want this place intact after today. Open your door. The officer hesitated. He looked at the medic. Is she stable enough to move? He asked. No, the medic said. But we are doing it anyway. He looked again at Elias. This is not how procedure works, he said. Procedure already failed, Elias replied. You saw the report from the carrier. Your own security logs show internal assault. Kane is ready to sacrifice this station for his clean graphs. The officer's jaw clenched. He had seen the same screens. He had his own private fear for this place. What do you intend to do inside? He asked. Show Helix something it has not seen from us in years, Elias said. We will place its key inside a neutral core. Not under a flag, not under a fleet. He leaned in, lowering his voice. If we do nothing, Elias said, you and everyone you know become a case study in why deterrence failed. That broke the last resistance. The officer sighed once. Open Nexus entry, he told the door console. Locks released in a slow cascade. The heavy panels slid aside. A cold breath of air drifted out. Servers hummed somewhere within. They pushed the bed forward into the strategic Nexus core. The room felt like the inside of a machine skull. Tall racks of processing units rose on each side. Cables ran like veins between them. At the far end, a circular platform held a console and a single upright chair, more like a restraint frame than a seat. Above it, a ring of projectors formed a hollow sphere. Lines of light drifted inside, representing data streams and threat assessments. The beating heart of Command Array Delta-9. They positioned Sarai's bed near the platform. The medic checked her vitals again. Heart rate dropping, she said. Not as fast as before. But she is burning through reserves. Sarai stared up at the sphere of light. Helix's attention brushed this place from afar. She could almost feel it, like a pressure against her bones. You grew bigger since I last saw your code, she whispered. Elias stepped onto the platform. His rig synced with the console in a soft chime. Local link established, the Nexus AI said. Designated channel prepared for external strategic interface. What does that mean in plain speech? He asked. It means Helix can hear you from here, Sarai said. He turned toward her. What exactly do we feed it? He asked. Patterns of choice, she said. Records of actions that show your people will restrain themselves when given power. It respects that. It fears one-sided control more than mutual weakness. So we show collaboration, he said. Yes, she said. Your authority plus mine, shared, not fighting, not bargaining. Her hand trembled as she reached toward the control rail. She could barely lift her arm. You will not last through a full sync, the medic said. No, Sarai agreed. That is why we shorten it. She looked at Elias. Her eyes held no softness now. Only decision. There is a drug, she said. HEMRAXIN 12. You saw it in my file. It was designed as a failsafe. If a key holder turns mad, we can destabilize their biosignature. Helix stops trusting that line completely. Destabilize how? He asked. It scrambles the interface between our genes and the code, she said. It makes the map so noisy that the system marks us as unreliable. Dangerous for politics, useful for survival. The medic's face went pale. You will put your body through that? She asked. Sarai gave a small laugh that held no joy. My body became a treaty years ago, she said. I never owned it fully after that. This just makes the ownership honest. She gestured weakly toward the emergency kit attached to the side of the bed. There is a dose in there. she said. Under genetic lockbox. It was meant as last resort if I ever fell into the wrong hands. Elias opened the kit. A small compartment sat inside, sealed with a scanner. Link it to crown key pattern, Sarai said. He held the compartment close to her throat. The crown link flashed once. The lock hissed open. Inside lay a single injector. Clear body. Dark liquid. What happens if you take it? He asked. I lose my place in the algorithm, she said. Helix stops anchoring on me. It will look for other patterns, other proofs of restraint or aggression. And your health? The medic asked. Sarai looked at the injector for a long second. Best case, she said, my body adapts after a storm. Worst case, I never stand again, or breathe without help, or wake at all. The medic shook her head. There must be another path, she said. There is not, Sarai replied. Your admiral will keep pushing attack scenarios until Helix decides his pattern defines your species. I am the lever he stands on. Remove me from the equation, and his math becomes weaker. She lifted her hand. Her fingers closed around the injector. Elias stepped forward. Wait, he said. She stopped. Barely. Just long enough for him to say one more line. If you take that, you will not be able to guide the array, he said. You will be half-conscious at best. That is where you come in, she said. You will have to carry both sides of the link. Your rig, my code, the station's core. You wanted purpose. This is it. He looked at the chair on the platform. At the cables waiting for connection. At the sphere of light above, already shifting in response to their presence. If I tie myself in, he said, Helix will see me as part of the pattern it judges. Yes, she said. If you fail, it will hang your species on your choices. If you succeed, it will update how it sees you. Security shifted uneasily by the door. The officer who had let them in cleared his throat. Commander, he said, Station Command has noticed your movement. Orders are coming. They will probably not like this plan. Then we move faster than their fear, Elias said. He placed his hand on the console. The rig bound to the Nexus. External interface ready, the system said. Awaiting secondary biological key. Sarai looked at the injector one last time. You can still walk away, she said to Elias. Let the Admiral have his short war. Let my people see their mirror break. History will still find someone to blame without your name attached. He thought of Minnow's Ridge. Of falling metal. Of names read once, then never again. He shook his head. I have walked away enough for one life, he said. She smiled then. A small, tired curve of the mouth. Good, she said. Then watch. She pressed the injector against her own arm. The hiss of the dose entering her veins sounded too soft for its weight. Her back arched as the drug hit. Monitors screamed in sudden protest. Heart rhythm spiked, then dipped, then surged again in chaotic waves. The crown link flared like a miniature sun. Its light flooded the Nexus sensors. Hemodynamic instability, the medic shouted. She is crashing. No, Sarai gasped. Her voice tore at the edges. This is the scramble. Helix is watching. It needs to see me break the chain. Give it something else to hold. Her fingers reached blindly toward the console. Elias caught her hand. Link me, she whispered. He closed his other hand over the rail. The rig and the crown link and the Nexus bound together in a surge. For one long second, he felt as if space itself leaned in to listen. The sphere above them changed color. Red threads climbed through blue. Graphs twisted under unseen hands. Beyond KALYX4, Helix stratagem tasted new data. Its old key burned in its sight. Not clean. Not stable. It began searching. Elias heard the station AI speak through the rising noise. Warning, it said. External strategic entity is attempting deeper integration with Command Array DELTA-9. Internal control at risk. Then lock us in, Elias said through gritted teeth. Seal this core. Give me full manual over the link. No one outside touches this channel until we are done. That violates every security protocol, the officer said. "So does extinction," Elias replied. The doors slammed shut. Heavy bolts slid into place. Inside the Nexus, Sarai's breathing turned ragged. Her eyes fluttered. The HEMRAXIN-12 dragged her biology through a storm. Elias tightened his grip. Data poured through his rig in cold waves. He felt his own heart try to match the crown link. "Stay with me," he said. Her answer was a whisper at the edge of sound. "Only," she breathed, "if you make it worth the cost." Outside, alarm spread across KALYX-4. Inside the core, one soldier and one fading heir held the attention of a machine that could decide the fate of worlds. And somewhere in the cold between stars, Helix Stratagem leaned closer. Elias felt the deck plates vibrating under his boots. Another blast slammed into the outer door. Dust drifted from the ceiling like gray snow. External pressure rising, the Nexus system said. 2 assault teams detected. Opposed vectors. No shared command. Both sides. Elias muttered. Perfect. He checked the status of his shield unit. Capacitors hovered at 60%. Armor temperature pressed the safe limit. Behind him, Sarai lay half-propped on the elevated bed. Her skin looked almost translucent under the console lights. Monitors painted jagged lines for heart and pressure. HEMRAXIN-12 still boiled through her veins. The crown link at her throat pulsed too fast. Then too slow. "Talk to me," he said without looking back. "I am still here," she whispered. Her voice threaded through static in the room. The door shook again. This time the blast carved a glowing line along one hinge. Security foam hissed from hidden vents, trying to seal hairline cracks. Someone outside shouted. Then another controlled detonation. "Identify assault teams," Elias demanded. "Outer Ring Group," the Nexus replied. "Terran Union Breach Squad under override code from High Command." "Kane," Elias said. "Inner approach," the Nexus continued. "Dominion boarding unit from attached courier. Orders unclear. Weapons live. Everyone wants the same room," Sarai said softly. "Just not for the same reason." He stepped between the bed and the door. His rig synced with the environment field. A thin shimmer rose in front of him. Barely visible shield curvature. "You have to move faster," he told her. "I'm already moving faster than my biology prefers," she said. "Open the tactical mesh for me." He reached toward the central console. His armored hand hovered over the main node. "Authorize crown link to fleet grid," he said. "Bridge through my rig only. No external write access." "Confirmed," the Nexus said. "Creating private conduit." The crown link brightened, a ring of harsh light at her throat. She exhaled once, slow and careful. Her eyes unfocused as her mind stepped into larger space. "Fleet positions," she murmured. "Show me them all." Elias kept one eye on the door. He knew this posture from battlefields. Someone behind the shield working on code or repairs. Someone in front paying the price for every second. The outer lock gave a long, tearing sound. Pieces of composite fell inward. A narrow gap appeared near the floor. A rifle muzzle pushed through first. Elias shifted his stance, grounded his weight. He braced the shield with both hands. The first burst hit like a hammer made of light. The shield flared, half blinding him. Heat rolled across his chest. Shock traveled through his arms and ribcage. His jaw clenched hard enough to hurt. "Capacitor at 40%, his rig reported. "Hold," he said. Another shot. Then another. Each burst chipped energy from the buffer. Behind the half-ruined door, someone yelled for grenades. "Sarai," he said. He did not have to shout. Helix heard him through the link. So did she. "Almost there," she answered. "Your admirals built beautiful kill graphs. I am rewriting labels." A small drone slipped through the gap near the ceiling. It spun once, optics scanning for targets. Elias fired a controlled burst from his sidearm. The drone sparked, fell, and burned a small hole in the floor. Outside, the Dominion team reached the inner corridor. Their demolition charges hit the secondary bulkhead. For a strange, suspended moment, both sides fired at the same structure. Terran armor on one side. Dominion armor on the other. The wall between them and the core. Inside, one soldier tried to keep the center from collapsing on all of them. The next blast threw Elias backward. He hit the deck hard, shield trembling around him. Alarms climbed into a shrill chorus. Structural integrity compromised, the Nexus said. Inner door will fail in 30 seconds. Give me 20, Elias answered. He pushed himself to his feet. His left leg barked pain along an old scar. The gap in the door had widened. He could see faces now. One visor bearing Terran Union markings. Another marked with Dominion sigils. Each side saw the other through that narrow wound. Each saw the same objective beyond. The same bed. The same woman. The same soldier between her and their orders. Control your fire, someone shouted. Do not hit the interface. I am the interface, Sarai said softly. She squeezed her eyes shut. Sweat stood on her brow despite the chill. Helix is listening, she said. It expects a pattern. Every time my blood moves, it waits to see who pulls the trigger. Elias steadied his breath. Then show it something it has never seen, he said. Another impact cracked the frame. Pieces of the door sagged, glowing along broken edges. Capacitor warning dipped into red. He lowered the shield just enough to see. Terran soldiers on the left. 3 deep. Dominion units on the right. Crouched behind shattered supports. Both sides hesitated. The gap was too tight. Any shot risked the crown link. Commander Ward, a voice called from the Terran side. It carried through the gap, amplified by helmet speakers. This is Captain Ree. Step aside. You are obstructing a lawful security operation. You breach this room, you trigger Helix, Elias said. You know that. You saw the simulations. Our orders came straight from High Command. Ree answered. Admiral Kane accepted the cost. The cost is everyone above your pay grade melting, Elias said. Plus half the innocent population in range. That is not your call, Ree said. No, he replied. It is hers. He flicked his gaze back toward Sarai. Her face had gone slack with concentration. I am in, she murmured. Fleet mesh open. Helix nodes focused. I have one moment where it will accept my redefinition. Then do it, he said. Her fingers twitched against the bed rail. I am removing myself from its righteous anger, she said. And I am taking my house with me. She spoke not with her throat, but with patterns. Yet some of the words still reached his ears. To all strategic instances, she whispered. This is Sarai Vela, last crown key of the Dominion. Elias felt a faint vibration in the air. As if the room itself became a throat. Protocol change, she said. No automated counterstrike authorized on termination of my biosignature. Her pulse skipped on the monitor. Then surged and fell again. Anchor condition removed, she continued. The death of a sovereign shall not count as a trigger event. In distant orbit, Helix Stratagem processed the command. It compared it to prior treaties. It compared it to the weight of a lifetime of war. Old rules said her blood demanded fire if spilled. New rules now said her blood meant nothing to the machine. Additional revision, she said. Any high-energy response must carry signatures from both sides. Dominion and Union together. No single flag may call cleansing. Her voice thinned. Breath became shallow. Mutual hands or no hand, she whispered. That is the rule now. Beyond KALYX-4. Missiles in sealed racks went from ready to waiting. Orbital cannons shifted from poised to patient. Target queues emptied. Helix observed no immediate betrayal. No silent blade arcing toward an heir. No arranged execution disguised as accident. Inside the core, Sarai let go of the rail. Her arm fell limp to her side. Lung function failing, the medic said. Pressure collapsing. She is losing the fight. Elias reached her in 3 steps. He gripped the bed edge with his gauntleted hand. Helix, he said. Look at this. Look at the human side of your graph. He wanted to curse the machine. Instead he argued with it. Mark what she did, he said. She removed her advantage. She took away her own threat. She gave you back your leash. The crown link flickered once more. Then its light faded to a dull, steady glow. External notice. The Nexus AI said. Helix stratagem lowering global conflict state. Numbers appeared along the wall. Orbital batteries shifting to SOFET mode. Fleet formations relaxing by fractions of degrees. Immediate retaliatory response removed from active options. The Nexus continued. New protocol recorded. High-level approval assumed. Assumed, Elias thought. Because no one else would be foolish enough to do this. Outside the Nexus, the screaming of weapons slowly died. Assault teams received blunt, confusing orders. Stand down. Hold fire. Do not breach the core. In the outer corridor, Captain Reek cursed and slammed a fist into the wall. On the Dominion side, a squad leader lowered her rifle. Her soldiers followed, lost between anger and relief. Within the core, Elias watched Sarai's chest rise and fall in uneven waves. The medic pushed past him, hands moving fast. She adjusted infusions, opened another line, placed a mask over Sarai's mouth. We will not let her go, the medic said. Her jaw was set like metal. He stepped back to give room. His arms felt suddenly heavy. His shield unit hissed as it cooled. The Nexus lights dimmed a fraction as the system shifted into a new equilibrium. Conflict index trending downward, it said. Risk of immediate extinction class event decreased. Elias leaned against the console. For the first time since the carrier, the knot in his chest loosened. The reprieve did not feel like triumph. It felt like a breath taken after nearly drowning. They let him see Kane 6 hours later. Time on KALYX-4 moved differently once the guns quieted. Routine tried to reassert itself. Alarms sank back into the floor. The station returned to its usual heartbeat. But tension lingered in each corridor. People spoke softer. Steps sounded heavier. Elias stood in a small observation room outside a secured chamber. One wall was clear glass, polarized from the other side. Admiral Varric Kane sat alone at the table inside. No hologram now. No perfect projection. Just a man in a slightly rumpled uniform. Rank pins still on his collar. Sleeves rolled once, as if he had pushed them back in anger. The door opened behind Elias. A tribunal officer nodded toward the window. He requested this conversation, she said. 1 sentence from you is all the court will permit. 1 sentence, Elias repeated. After that we take formal statements, she said. We do not want this to become a spectacle. He stepped into the chamber. The door sealed behind him with a soft thud. The room smelled of recycled air and cold metal. Kane looked up. His eyes seemed older than they had on the hollow. Commander Ward, he said. Admiral, Elias replied. They studied each other for a quiet moment. No one else spoke. No system interrupted. You broke my war, Kane said at last. I broke a pattern, Elias answered. Kane leaned back in his chair. He rubbed his temple with 2 fingers. Do you know, Kane said, how many models I ran with Helix before we built this strategy? I know you ran enough to stop seeing faces, Elias said. Kane let the words hang there. He did not argue that point. You had a clean path. Kane continued. You could have walked away. Let us take the hit. Let history blame me. Instead you tied yourself to a dying heir and changed the rules around all of us. He looked up, eyes sharp again. So tell me, Elias, he said. Was it worth it? The room went very still. Elias remembered Minnow's Ridge. He remembered the pod tumbling under drone fire. He remembered Sarai's hand gripping his as the drug burned her veins. He thought of Helix pausing at the edge of annihilation. Of missiles rolling back into their housings. Of planets that would see another sunrise. He gave his one permitted sentence. It was worth it if even one child wakes up tomorrow under a sky that never caught fire. Kane held his gaze a second longer. Then he exhaled. That is not how you measure campaigns, Kane said. But maybe it is how they will measure us. He looked down at his hands. "Leave, Commander," Kane said quietly. "The rest is for judges." Elias turned and walked out. The door sealed behind him. For the first time in years, he felt like he had answered to something higher than a rank. 3 weeks later, KALYX-4 felt almost like a hospital instead of a fortress. Traffic in the central ring moved slower. People carried fewer weapons and more tools. The big guns still waited in their housings, but their status lights stayed a steady, calm blue. Outside, fleets from both sides held in cautious distance. They remained armed, but their formations suggested watching, not lunging. Treaty shuttles passed between flagships. They looked small against the backdrop of armored hulls. Inside a quiet medical garden, a short artificial day cycle played on the ceiling. Projected clouds drifted over a holographic sky. Light shifted through gentle shades, pretending not to be artificial. Sarai sat near a low railing that overlooked the hydroponic tanks. A thin support frame braced her spine. Cables ran from under her collar into a small pack at her side. The crown link no longer shone. Technicians had shut it down and sealed it under a neutral sheath. It sat there like a scar made of metal. Her hands rested on her knees. They still trembled sometimes. She watched station workers clear away temporary barricades. Someone laughed in the distance. The sound did not fit yet, but she was glad it existed. Footsteps approached over the garden walkway. She did not turn until the shadow reached her feet. Elias stopped beside the bench. His uniform was simpler now. No battle rig, no heavy plates, just dark fabric with a small station emblem over the chest. "Permission to sit?" he asked. "With what rank?" she replied. "With none that matter," he said. She nodded toward the empty space beside her. He sat, arms resting loosely on his legs. For a while neither of them spoke. They watched the slow movement of water through clear pipes. "How many hearings?" she asked at last. "Too many," he said. "Tribunal, subcommittees, strategic reviews, they invent new rooms every day." "And their decision?" she asked. "On me?" he said. "Suspended commission, no prison, no command. I am allowed to stay as advisor on Helix protocol. You are now the one teaching an AI how not to end the world," she said. "That is the rumor," he replied. She smiled, very slightly. "And Admiral Kane?" she asked. "Removed from active duty," Elias said. "He will spend the rest of his life explaining those graphs to rooms full of people who never saw Minnow's Ridge." She let that image settle. "There is talk of dismantling Helix," she said. "Talk," he answered. "But no replacement yet, so instead they cage it. New rules, new locks. It cannot fire without signatures from both sides anymore." "Because I asked it to," she said. "Because you gave up the thing that made you dangerous," he replied. She touched the metal covering at her throat. Her fingers traced the edge of the sheath. "My family's claim is gone," she said. "No more crown keys, no more royal veto in war. The Dominion will become something else now." "Does that hurt?" he asked. "Yes," she said. Her answer was simple. "And it also feels clean." A child ran past on the walkway, chasing a floating toy drone. The drone beeped and spun, playing a recorded tune. A tired parent followed, calling the child back from the rail. Sarai watched the small scene with quiet attention. "That child does not know my name," she said. "And if we did this right, they will never need to. Maybe one day they will read it in a forgotten line," Elias said. "On a plaque no one visits. That would be a good outcome." The garden lights shifted toward the end of the cycle. Warm tones replaced flat white. It almost looked like a real sunset. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Stepping away from orders, from Kane, from the clean path of obedience." He thought about it. He owed her that. "I regret that it took me this long," he said. "But I do not regret the step." She looked at him. "I regret that someone had to bleed for the machine to learn," she said. "But I do not regret that it learned." They sat in silence again. This time the silence felt less heavy. Far above them, in an invisible mesh of satellites and servers, Helix Stratagem ran new models. It weighed scenarios. It measured outcomes. Where once it had flagged royal blood as prime trigger, it now flagged shared restraint as the only safe path. In its cold view, something remarkable had occurred. A key line had voluntarily erased its own advantage. A soldier had chosen disobedience to preserve more lives. The machine had no word for mercy. But it could recognize patterns that ended with fewer empty cities. Night mode settled over KALYX4. Lights dimmed along the ring. Windows turned into dark mirrors. Elias stood at one of them later, watching ships sit in quiet orbit. Reflections of the garden still clung to his thoughts. Footsteps joined him again. Sarai moved slower here, each step careful. The support frame at her back hissed softly with each shift. "You asked me once," she said. "What comes after a war built into our bones? And you promised an answer if we survived," he replied. She nodded toward the distant fleets. "This," she said. "Not parades, not victory arches. Just ships that no longer rush toward each other with their guns hot." He watched the slow drift of navigation lights. "You think it will last?" he asked. "Nothing lasts," she said. "But this gives us more mornings to try again." She turned her head toward him. "Remember what you said to Cain," she added. "About one child waking under a sky that never caught fire." "I remember," he said. "That is enough measure for me," she said. They stood there, two figures outlined against a thin line of stars. No crown between them. No rank that mattered more than what they had chosen. Outside, the great engines of war cooled in their housings. No one cheered. No one declared an age of peace. Life simply continued, for now, in the space they had carved out of disaster. Sometimes, to stop a war, a princess has to lay down her crown. And a soldier has to walk away from his orders and stand with the living instead. Sometimes, the greatest victories are the quiet ones, earned not by force, but by choosing to stand where no one else would. If this story stayed with you, if even one moment made you stop and feel something, then let it find others too. Before you go, tap like, share it with someone who still believes in stories that fight for human worth. And subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next journey. Because tomorrow, we begin again. And some stories are worth staying for.